However, that wasn't the case. What she was calling to tell me is that JJ had a side chick at the house for the weekend who flew in from another state. Not because I caught you, she's all these trashy things. Was she these trashy things when you bought the ticket and flew her in? Was she these trashy things when you were sleeping with her? Was she these trashy things when you were showing all this public display of affection? Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, my name is Charlie. Please consider subbing before you exit this video. Now in today's video, I am going to recreate this look here, and I'm actually using the ABH X Jackie Aina palette, and this is probably one of the top 3 palettes that I have or own that I love. I will repurchase this again if it's available, if I ever use it down, which I probably will. It's probably one of the palettes I reach for the most, so I will be using this palette in this video. And going into the video, I just did ask you guys on a community post what you would like to hear, and because I did give the example of dating, I think a lot of people were here for that. Now when it comes to this video, I am talking about a time that I was cheated on, but I don't want you guys to think that the topic of being cheated on is lighthearted. It is something very hurtful, but I'm so past that time. I'm past that situation, and I'm okay. I'm okay, so I'm okay to talk about it. If it's something I've dealt with, I'm okay with talking about it. And if it's something I've dealt with and I don't want to talk about it, I wouldn't talk about it. But this, I'm okay with it. I've moved on. We're good to go. And I just hope that during this time that you guys can find some of my content distracting. I'm trying to keep myself distracted and not deal with some of the things that I'm reading, some of the things that I'm hearing, and finding a healthy way to process all the information that I'm getting online or seeing or reading. So I hope this serves as some type of distraction. And again, I got cheated on. I've been cheated on many times before. I'm fine. I'm fine. So I do consider this to be a lighthearted subject. I could sit back and laugh at it now with the way I reacted. However, I don't want to make this intro much longer. Please stay safe. Please make yourself a priority, and please think of others during this time. We'll get on the other side. Let's get right into the video. So I've already done my brows off camera, and I'm starting to start the look with a few transition colors. I'll figure out a clever way to include the colors that I'm using while editing, so I don't get overwhelmed doing this. So my ex from several years back, I'm gonna call him JJ. I actually met JJ online. Years ago, there used to be a service by AOL called AIM. JJ found my username through a mutual friend. However, I never knew JJ. We never met, but we did have that mutual friend. However, I do still consider that we met online because that's when we first interacted. From the moment JJ messaged me, we never stopped communicating after that. I'm originally from Connecticut. JJ was from New York, the Bronx specifically. And for some reason, as much as this is going to sound like a stereotype, for some reason Connecticut girls found New York girls, at least back then, my friend group or my age group, we used to find New York guys a lot more attractive because New York guys had a specific reputation that just seemed cooler than Connecticut guys. I don't look at it like that anymore. I really could care less where you're from. However, it was just something that myself and my friend group used to do often. You can literally be the twin of someone. However, if one twin is saying they're from Connecticut and the other is saying they're from New York, the one from New York instantly looks more attractive. At least that's how it used to be back in the day. So from the day JJ messaged me, we spoke nonstop, and we were younger, so we didn't have vehicles at the time when we first started speaking. So the only way we could have gotten to each other the only way we could have met up was through public transportation, and most people used to take the train to New York. Even when I visit home now, I would take the train to New York. A lot of people, driving in New York is just a nightmare sometimes. We ended up meeting up in his neighborhood. And I won't say where he's from, but he's from a very well-known neighborhood, like rappers talk about it, things like that. And I thought that was even cool because he was in an area that like different rappers or famous rappers at the time used to talk about. I would say within the first few weeks, I started to fall for JJ. And the reason why, I'm a hopeless romantic at heart. There's only 2 people I can remember in relationships that really match that side of me. JJ, as far as emotionally, was everything that I always dreamed of growing up as a little girl. And, you know, with the good morning texts, and he used to do other things that would make me feel like he put the effort in. He used to write me letters because we lived, you know, a state apart. He used to write me letters and mail it to me. It was the cutest thing. And sometimes what we would do when we write each other, mind you, we talked every day, but we would still write each other letters. What he would do, or what I started doing, and then he followed suit. I remember Amber, I think it was called Amber Romance, or it's like a yellow scent from Victoria's Secret. I would write the letter. Well, actually, I made a mistake. I first started doing is writing the letter and then spraying the letter, and then I realized, oh, make the ink kind of run. So then what I would do is whatever paper I'm writing the letter on, I would spray it down first, let it dry, and then write over it, and then I would start sending him letters that way, and then he would start sending me letters with his favorite fragrance at the time. So then he started to spray down his letters with his favorite fragrance, or cologne rather, and send it to me. And that's how we were. Like, we spoke every single day. We'd message every single day. We spoke on the phone every single day. Even when we started hanging out, we'd still do that. I'd go out there, and on my train ride home, we're on the phone the whole time, or we're messaging the whole time. When I was younger, I really wanted that type of attention from a male, and he kind of filled that void. Looking back at it now, the attention that I sought from males was really unhealthy, but he did fill that void. And we spoke every day about everything. It didn't matter the conflicts we had within our families, we just spoke about everything. We had a good day, we spoke about it. We used to listen to music together. I guess looking at it now, at least to each other, we were codependent, and I guess you would call us like stage 5 clingers. I don't know if that's still a phrase, but we were very dependent on each other, and our days were consumed with talking to each other. If I had work on my lunch break, every minute was spent speaking to him. And if he had things to do in between him doing those things, every minute was spent speaking to me. He was the first person I spoke to in the morning and the last person I spoke to at night. And that was the first time in my young adulthood that I had a relationship that emotionally fulfilling. So I really cared for him, and he really filled that void. Unfortunately, fast forward about a year later, unfortunately nothing stays as beautiful as it is in the beginning, and we ran into a few problems, but nothing that I thought we couldn't solve together, because we were so in love and we had future plans. Now fast forward that year later, a lot of people may know this who is from the Northeast, but 125th Street is a place that you can go for a lot of different things. One thing that they are known for is African hair braiding, and I used to always take the train to 125th, either alone or with friends, to get my hair done. And a style that, I don't know if it's still called this, but it's called kinky twist. I used to get kinky twist done. And that specific day, I was out on 125th with my friends, and JJ didn't know this, but I was gonna get my hair done and then go surprise him. We had the type of relationship, we didn't really need to announce when we were coming. It's just we were far along in our relationship that we didn't need that. So the plan was to get my hair done and then obviously go surprise my boyfriend, because we hadn't seen each other for about a week, maybe 2 weeks at the time. I know back then not seeing each other for a week or 2 weeks was like heartbreaking to us. Yeah, we were that type of couple. So I was gonna get my hair done. I was gonna look real good, of course, and then go surprise my man. Now it's important to note that this specific hairstyle takes anywhere between 6 to 8 hours to complete, depending on the person, the technique, how many people are actually doing it for you. So it takes a long time. So even after that, I was planning to go surprise my boyfriend. I'm gonna quickly do my lashes and liner off camera. I have not mastered that. I won't master it on this video, and then I'll come right back. So while I was a quarter way done with my hair, I got a phone call from JJ's grandmother, which is very rare because When we first started dating, she didn't really approve of me, which I won't get into, but she didn't really approve of me, but eventually she ended up loving me. We had a great relationship. However, we didn't really talk on the phone ever, unless like he just put her on the phone when we were on the phone, but she's never directly called me for anything. So when she called me, my heart sank because I thought something had happened to JJ. However, that wasn't the case. What she was calling to tell me is that JJ had a side chick at the house for the weekend who flew in from another state. My heart completely sank in that moment because there was no, like, she's not a prankster or anything like that. She would have no reason to call me up to make up something like that. And I just let her finish talking, and I instantly started sobbing in the chair that I was in getting my hair done. I started sobbing uncontrollably, and the African hair braider who was doing my hair had to stop to ask me if I was okay. And through my sobbing, I like said everything that she said, and she paused because a lot of the time, seeing that they're doing your hair for hours, they do have to take a lunch break. And pretty much what she said, listen, call your boyfriend. She pretty much said, listen, call your boyfriend. I'm gonna take my lunch break now. She felt bad, obviously, because this stranger is sitting here getting her hair done to go surprise her boyfriend, and then is finding out while doing this that he actually has a side chick there that he flew in from out of town, and she's staying there for the weekend. So she went on break. I went outside. Mind you, half my hair is done, so half my natural hair is done, half the kinky twist is done, so I look ridiculous. Went outside, called JJ, started screaming immediately. It was not even a calm start to the conversation. I immediately started screaming, asking him, what are you doing? And he's asking me, how do you know? And I said, I know. I didn't know if I should say it was his grandmother, because she didn't say don't say she called, because his grandmother is very much a woman who says things with her chest. She didn't tell me that I couldn't say it was her, but I wasn't sure in that moment. So I was just like, I know, who is she? All these things. And he was like, no, it's not like that. It's my friend. We talk every day. I know his schedule. He knows my schedule. He knows my movements. He knows everything. So the fact that he's sitting here saying it's just a friend that I never knew about. So it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense in the slightest. And I was just outside on 125th, and if anyone knows 125th, it's very busy. I was outside on 125th just sitting there crying, half my natural hair out, half the kinky twist out. It just looked, I looked ridiculous. The fact that I was arguing with my boyfriend, it was very clear what the conversation was about. So I looked ridiculous as hundreds of people are walking by me on the street. And we're going back and forth. He's explaining to me this, and I asked, put her on the phone then. If this is just a friend, put her on the phone. Oh, she's not there. Where is she? She's not there. So we're going back and forth, but then the hair braider came back from lunch, and she needs to finish to move on to other clients. So I'm at this point, I didn't want to make a scene in the salon, so I'm texting him, going back and forth, and I still didn't even tell him I was in New York. Because again, this was a surprise. I didn't even tell him I was in New York to begin with. So my friends start to kind of realize what's happening. And I'm trying to save face and not, even though at that point it was past being dramatic and past that point, I was trying to save face only because even in that moment, because how much I loved JJ, I knew I wasn't gonna leave. And that's sad to say, but I knew I wasn't gonna leave him if he could just make this make sense. If he can just show me that he wasn't that disrespectful to fly another girl from another state and have them spend the weekend, which I've never done. I've spent the night. I never spent like several days because it was a home with a lot of people and it would be uncomfortable for us. So I've never spent several days. So the fact that you could have possibly flown another girl to you to spend several days there with your parents, with your grandmother, with your family, it didn't make sense. So in my heart, I'm like, save face for your friends. Because if he can just explain this away and not make it seem that bad, girl, you can stay. You can stay, as in stay with him. You can stay. So nothing he was saying was making me feel better. And the fact that I couldn't get on the phone with this chick made it worse. So at that point, I didn't even tell him it was his grandmother who told me. I guess his grandmother heard the conversation and she just told him. in the background, I heard her saying it, like, I'm the one who called her. You're wrong. This is not, she's pretty much saying, you know, this is not just your friend. I saw you guys kissing. I saw you guys being romantic. So therefore, I know this is not your friend. Tell that girl the truth. So then he realized in that moment, I heard, and he realized in that moment, it's her who told me. So he starts backpedaling, trying to make sense of the situation, and it didn't make sense whatsoever. So I started doing the typical thing, like asking questions about the chick. Who is she? I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. He's trying to deal with his grandmother, who's pretty much blasting him in the background. And I'm also trying to get answers out of him in this time as well, which wasn't working when she started yelling at him, when his grandmother started yelling at him. So I get off the phone, and at that point, my friends are pretty much like, hey, if there's something going on, you don't have to go out there and see him. But I already have the day planned out, and at this point, I'm so upset that I am gonna pull up on him. I am gonna figure out who this chick is, all these things. Fast forward to a few hours later, I still went to his neighborhood, and I called him. I said, I'm downstairs, JJ, open the door, because you have to be buzzed in. He would not open that door, because at that point, I'll call her Sarah. Sarah was upstairs, and he knew I wanted to speak to Sarah. I wanted to confront him and confront the Sarah girl to try to understand what was going on and make her understand as well, like, this man was in a relationship, so what is going on? Granted, the way the conversation went was way worse than that. I'm just cleaning it up a bit, because at the end of the day, I was wrong too. The way I reacted to it, I could have reacted differently. So I'm trying to get buzzed in. He won't let me in, because he kind of knows at this point, if I get in there, it's not really going to be a conversation, at least not between me and Sarah. So he's telling me to leave, and I'm telling him I came here all the way from Connecticut, not telling him that I was already in New York, of course, just to be dramatic and say, you know, I'm not turning around. I drove here all the way from Connecticut, or I came up here all the way from Connecticut. So he's like, no, you'll have to leave. You'll have to leave. You can't do this to me, as if he's the victim. He's like, you can't do this. You can't do this to me. Luckily for me, because I've gone up there several times and everyone knows who I am, everyone in his neighborhood knows me as JJ's girlfriend. So people see that I'm hysterical downstairs. So certain neighbors who were already outside, just hanging out, hanging on the block, came up to me and was asking me questions. And I told them, as childish as it is, and I could have kept it to myself because it was my relationship and I didn't need to blast it. I told them, listen, JJ's grandmother called me and said there's some side chick up there and he won't let me up there. I don't know how to get in. Lucky for me, I did at the time have a lot of respect from the people in that neighborhood, and someone walked up and said, oh, I live here. I'm gonna let you right on in, because I saw the chick and we were all questioning who she was, but JJ kept playing it off as just a friend, even though the way that they were interacting with each other was way more than friendly. Someone let me in, and when I tell you I flew up those stairs, I did not wait for the elevator. I flew up those stairs, and I just started banging on the door, kicking the door, shouting at him to come open the door. And where I messed up, because at the end of the day, that's not his house. He lives with his parents and his grandparents and family. At the time, I was so enraged, I didn't care. So I'm kicking at the door, calling him, and I get a phone call on my phone from JJ. I pick up, I'm yelling, come open the door. It wasn't JJ on the phone. It was Sarah. And she's saying, stop disrespecting my man's family's house. You need to leave, and all these other things. We exchanged words for, I want to say, it felt like forever, but the phone call probably was about 3-4 minutes. And at some point, I got so upset that this girl had the gall to get on my phone, on my boyfriend's phone, to call me, to tell me I need to leave, I'm disrespecting her boyfriend's house. And at that point, I just started kicking the door, and I told her, I said, Sarah, you hear that? That's me kicking the door. If that's your man, come show me that's your man. She was scared. Long story short, she was scared. I think he kind of probably explained to her his mess up, and I think he kind of probably explained to her his mess up, and she just didn't want to come out, because the energy she had when she first got on the phone switched very quickly when she heard me kicking at the door. I don't know who she thought was at the door. She would have to know it was me, but I think she thought the phone call would make me calm down or go away. No, that enraged me even more. Granted, I'm not saying what I did was right, how I reacted was right. I was a lot younger and I was very much part of the whole I'll pull up mentality. I pulled up to a lot of people in the past. I very much had that mentality, like, drop that address, I'll pull up. Drop that location, I'll pull up. And 9 times out of 10, I always pulled up. I don't think she really knew who I was based on the future conversations we ended up having. But she found out that day. And guess who came to that door? It wasn't JJ, it wasn't Sarah. It was his grandmother, because guess what? That's his grandmother's house. So she opened up that door, and she did have to put me in my place in that moment to say, listen, I understand you're upset, but you can't disrupt my house. Because me kicking the door and banging on the door and causing a disruption was disrespecting her house. But she also understood how I felt in that moment. And she said, I understand your feelings, but don't disrespect my house. I'm opening the door for you to show you I am on your side with this, but please don't disrespect my house. And you know what she said? She said to Sarah and JJ, go outside and deal with her. Sarah would not step outside at all. And I saw Sarah. Sarah is a gorgeous woman. Gorgeous, gorgeous woman. And I saw her. I didn't run in the house because I didn't want to disrespect JJ's grandmother. But I told JJ, come outside. Come outside or I'm taking you outside. Or I'm going to go in there and take you outside. And his grandmother was like, actually, you're not. Remember what I said. And I was like, okay. So JJ comes outside. As fearful as he was, he comes out. He comes out and we're arguing. Imagine the top 5 couples fights on Love and Hip Hop. That was us in that apartment complex hallway. It was really bad. We're arguing back and forth. He's still trying to talk his way out of it, like saying she's just a friend. But where he messed up is Sarah was an earshot away. Even though Sarah wouldn't come out, Sarah made sure she was by the door long enough to hear what he was saying. And from the other side of the door, the locked door at that, she's yelling, just a friend? Really, JJ, just a friend? And I'm looking at him like, she thinks you're more than friends. And at that point, he had no choice but start flipping on her because he realized in that moment, we both, even though she wouldn't come outside to me, he was in the position where he had to explain himself and make it make sense. Because at that point, all of us are looking dumb. We're both really just sitting there fighting for a title, for a dog. So we're both going back and forth. She's behind the door. I'm obviously on the outside. And I'm like, who's the side chick? Is it her or is it me? Is it her or is it me? And she's pretty much saying the same thing on the other side of that locked door. He finally flips on Sarah. He's like, Sarah, shut the F up. He pretty much is like, Sarah, shut the F up. You knew what it was. Chill out. You don't get it. My girl is crazy. All this other stuff. Yada, yada, yada. And here go my punk, desperate self, so happy that he's putting this side chick that he flew in her place. Like, this is what I'm thinking. Like, he's finally putting a side chick in her place. And I start crying and like, you know, I'm saying, JJ, how could you do this to us? Tell her, tell her, tell her. So he's going in on this girl that he flew in to cheat on me with. And I'm sitting here like egging it on, crying, because at this moment he's finally telling this girl like, I'm his girl, she's the side chick. I'm crying, JJ, how could you do this to me? All these things. And I'm like crying uncontrollably. Instead of just really not doing that and just walking away from the relationship, I sat there like crying as if I won something, like just so happy that he's telling this girl and putting this girl in her place, when really I should have just put him in his place. Not even this chick, but put him in his place. So he finally gets me to calm down a bit, and he takes me down to like the local bodega or something like that, and we get a slice of pizza. During this time, he's telling her she has to leave. So he's doing that to distract me, to not beat her up, and so we can kind of figure things out, and I'm going along with it like a dummy. So I'm just so happy that my man, my cheating man, is taking me down the street to get a slice of pizza while he makes his side chick pack up to go catch a flight, which is so ridiculous. Like, looking at it now, it's like, what were you thinking? So his grandmother helps her leave, pack up and go. I love his grandmother. His grandmother helps her pack up to go. And when she's gone, we're pretty much sitting there talking for hours, trying to make sense of everything. He was just pretty much saying, with all the recent fights we've been in, he thought I was eventually gonna leave, and that he was pretty much lining up his next girlfriend. That's pretty much what he explained to me. And I'm sitting there accepting like, oh, that makes, because I just wanted it to make sense so I can stay with him. Even though what he was explaining didn't even make sense. So he kept going on explaining that, and I'm like, but why would you do that to me, JJ? I would never do that to you. And he was like, I regret it. She was nothing. And he starts like trashing her to me, which was another sign of how much I'm an idiot, that you flew a girl in to spend the weekend with you, and now because I caught you, she's all these trashy things. Was she these trashy things when you bought the ticket and flew her in? Was she these trashy things when you were sleeping with her? Was she these trashy things when you were showing all this public display of affection? She wasn't. She's all these trashy things now because I caught you and you realized you had to choose between her and myself. And if I'm honest, I don't think he would have chose me if she didn't live so far away. I don't believe it, and the only reason why is because of the conversations I ended up having with her later on. So I'm gonna say about a week later, she ends up finding me on AIM, and of course she came in strong again. I don't know why she kept doing that to herself. So she came in strong, which was a mistake once again. And then once she realized, like, when it came to a shouting match or a verbal argument, it was a lose-lose for her, she then calmed down, because I think at the end of the day she was really hurt. And she started to explain to me a bit more about how they met, the dynamics of their relationship. And I did feel bad, because I realized in that moment that it did seem like they had something that we didn't have. Even though she explained a lot of the same things he was doing with me, the fact that he went to the extent of doing things for her that he had done for me, I realized I was not as special as I thought I was to him. I wasn't as special at all. And after I was able to put just the anger away, just put it aside for a second, I realized the girl was just as hurt as me. And it's because they had a similar love. I don't know how he was able, well, it's easy because she was far away, but at the time I didn't understand how he was able to do the same things with me that he was doing with this other girl. And we had spoken, I want to say, we spoke like twice. I want to say maybe 3 times we spoke. The first time we spoke was very brief. The second time she came in differently. And I realized we were just 2 people who got played. We're 2 people who got played, and we were both really hurt. And yeah, I probably am the main one who acted immaturely in the whole situation. However, this young lady was just hurt just like me. This young lady was in love just like me. Through our conversations, I noticed more and more she was reaching out to check if I was okay, and it seems as though she was trying to build a friendship. And I, in a lot of ways, declined that, because I still knew I was gonna stay. I just wanted her out of the picture. I wanted to hear her side without trying to fight her, and I heard his side, but I also knew I was gonna stay. I didn't know what I would be without JJ. And that's very sad to say. That's this very sad thing, to think that you just got cheated on, you went through all this, you embarrassed yourself, and you still are sitting here knowing you're gonna stay with this man. And that plays a part in why I was kind of pushing back on the idea of being friends with this girl, because Sarah was such a sweet girl. What outside of the whole being a side chick, she was a sweet girl. However, how am I gonna stay with my boyfriend and befriend the side chick? You know, and I wanna say a couple of months later, she realized I stayed with JJ, and she didn't even come at me. She actually came at me respectfully and was like, hey, I hope you know you deserve better. And I hope you know that he still messaged me afterwards. And guess what I did? I ignored that and still stayed with him. And sadly, that's not even the first time I had been cheated on. When I was in high school, my boyfriend at the time cheated on me and actually had a baby with someone, and I walked away. I always used to say, I'll never stay with a cheater, what I look like, all these things, like yada yada yada, like really talking a big one, until I finally got cheated on by someone that I thought I could live without, and I stayed. And I knew through the whole situation that I probably was gonna stay. Was that the first time I got cheated on? No. Was that the last time I got cheated on? Oh, hell no. It definitely wasn't. However, when it comes to being in that situation at this stage in my life, would I respond the same way? No. I do believe that the person who owes you an explanation is the person that has the relationship, who's in that commitment with you, not the person who either is knowing, even if the person knows, even if the person knows you're in a relationship and they still seek out some type of romantic relationship with the person you're committed to, the person who still owes you that explanation is the person in that commitment. And have I been in situations after that where I reacted differently? Absolutely. I don't always learn from all my mistakes the first time around, but I eventually learn. That's one thing, especially with dealing with relationships, because even my love life now, it's not so much a love life. It's something that I'm trying to hold on and have control over. However, I do believe I'm going about it the wrong way, and I'll get into it in another video. But if you take anything away from my videos, whether I'm talking about relationships or my past mistakes, the only thing I can teach you is to do the opposite of what I done. Like, just to learn from my mistakes. Be better than me. I will continuously say that in my videos. Be better than me. I don't set this grand standard for life, morals, or anything like that. And I would hope no one is on my channel believing that, but I think sometimes people, with the way I speak passionately, people may perceive my ways that way, but no. I've made a lot of mistakes, learned from it. JJ, I wish him the best. Did we stay together for a while after that? Yeah. I found out he cheated on me again, and unfortunately that second time a child was conceived during that time. So it took him cheating on me and having a child for me to finally walk away. And that says more about me than it says about him. It says a lot about him, but it said more about me, how desperate I was, how much I wanted that attention, how much I wanted that relationship to fill the void that I never addressed for years. And what I never addressed was the simple fact that I clung on to men because I didn't have that father figure. A lot of people talk about daddy issues and have different perspectives and different ideas or different opinions on it. However, I do believe daddy issues are a real thing. It's something I've dealt with for years. I've dated a lot through the years. I've made a lot of mistakes myself. And I believe it takes two to end a relationship, to go into a committed relationship, to end a committed relationship, and for problems to grow in a committed relationship. I'm a believer in that. So I had fault within that relationship and many others. However, with that, I learned how pathetic I truly was when it came to that relationship and a lot of different relationships. And I've definitely made my mistakes. To JJ, to Sarah, even though that's not their real names, they know who they are. Sarah's a beautiful, beautiful young lady. And I would hope by now that she has found the love of her life and she's just married with a whole bunch of kids. Whatever Sarah reproduces and comes out of her body is just going to be gorgeous, just like her. So I wish her the best. At the time, the way I handled it, was it right? Absolutely not. Do I wish them the best? Absolutely. I know JJ has his son now, and I'm sure he's a great father. I hope he's a better partner. However, you know, I'm still out here and I'm gonna find my happy ending, whatever that looks like. I hope you guys did enjoy this. I hope it is a great distraction to what is going on. And just remember, guys, we're in this together. We'll get on the other side of this. And if all else fails, just try to hold on to the idea of being better today than you were yesterday and greater tomorrow than you will be today. Later, guys.